Howdy folks, AJ coming at you again, your resident vintage gamer. And today's video is going to be a special one. I recently acquired a very rare collectible. And I have to start out this video by thanking a fellow YouTuber by the name of Tim Harper. Tim has considerably more subscribers than I do. I think he's in the 1,300 range of subscribers or whatever, but he has been a subscriber of mine for a while, and he was the one who tipped me off about this. And the reason that I'm a little embarrassed about the whole thing, because he introduced me to the world of M.A.R. And what it is there was a game produced in 1975 called Empire of the Petal Throne. The World of M.A.R. by M.A.R. Barker, Professor M.A.R. Barker. So this came out not too long after the original Dungeons and Dragons. And I have done several videos on my channel where I talk about the world of Greyhawk, my favorite setting and all that, and old D&D and all that. And in one of those, Tim, the guy who I'm thanking, said, well, you need to check out this. And he talked about Empire of the Petal Throne. And I had never heard of it. And I call myself the vintage gamer. And considering that it was produced by TSR, the same company that produced Dungeons and Dragons, I was really embarrassed because I'm thinking, this was in my heyday. How did I miss this entire game setting and everything else? Well, I didn't recognize the title or the person who created it, but once I saw the box, I realized what this was. Back in the day, going way back, when I would go to the bookstore looking at the new Dungeons and Dragons products that were out, and I can remember seeing this product on the shelf, and it was particularly around the time that some of the advanced Dungeons and Dragons modules were being released. And I remember seeing this, and I was intrigued by the box. However, I was in full Dungeons and Dragons, mania at that time. So seeing this, I probably gave it a glance, but seeing it was not a Dungeons and Dragons product, I didn't give it a second thought. But I can vividly remember seeing this next to all the D&D stuff and had no idea what it was, didn't take the time to investigate. And so here it is 40 years later, close to 40 years later, or 35 years, whatever, years later, and a fellow YouTuber who's younger than me is the one who tells me all about it. And thankfully he did, because then I went, of course, once I saw that, I had to get on my research hat and just go to town. And I did my research, and then I went on eBay to see if I could find a copy. Now, if you are looking for a copy of this is an original. If you notice, there's damage here on the box. This is the only way, well, I shouldn't say it's the only way I could afford one. It's the only way that I could afford one for what I was willing to pay. With the damage to the box, and that's the only damage. The rest of it is in good shape. It was a little over $100 for this item. If you find one that's in good shape and the box is in good shape, you're looking at least $250. But for me, I'm okay with the box being a little damaged to save me, almost $150. So, sorry for all you hardcore collectors out there. I'm okay with a little bit of damage on the box here. I'm okay with that. $150 will buy me a whole lot of other collectibles, and I just have a little bit of a damaged box. So, Now, getting to now after so thank you to Tim. But now getting to what the contents. Well, let's start. Actually, let's back up a little bit. We'll start with what the Empire of the Petal Throne is. It's a fantasy role playing game setting, just like Dungeons and Dragons, set in a completely different world setting, created by M.A.R. Barker, who was a professor. He was also a linguist, just like J.R.R. Tolkien. This gentleman has been labeled as the Tolkien of gaming, because as Tolkien used his knowledge of linguistics and everything to help him create the world of Middle Earth and the languages that went along with it, the Elven language and so forth. M.A.R. Barker did the same thing, but specifically for a game, where Tolkien did it for literary purposes, to write novels and so forth. Mr. Barker did it specifically to create this game, and he created languages in the game too. There are languages that he created just for it. So, now, having said that, what it is the Empire of the Petal Throne is about a planet that has been, that we humans have colonized sometime in the future, and not only have we colonized it, but we have basically depleted most of the resources on the planet. We have been living it high on the hog there. We've depleted most of the resources and everything else. And then something cosmic, cataclysmic cosmic event occurs, and that world is cut off from the rest of the solar system. They are now isolated. So they're left with a world that is low on resources, and they have no way to get resupplied from other worlds or anything, or even communicate with them. And what happens is, apparently there's 5 factions, that it breaks into 5 factions on the planet, and that's the basis for the game. Is there's 5 factions, and you're in a world that is become savage because there's no resources and so forth, and then you as a player character are in that world, and you have to group up to survive and so forth. And that's the premise for the game. So now that you know that, we can show the contents real quick. This was just like the cover page that was in there, and it basically tells about the world of Tecumel and so forth. And you've got the old TSR logo here, which a lot of you old timers will recognize. And then you got the manual, and it's a spiral bound, and it's Empire of the Petal Throne, M.A.R. Barker, rules for fantasy adventures, a campaign on an alien planet, etc. And there's quite a few tables and all the regular stuff that you would expect. There's a lot of sketches in here, set like this. And some of them were done by Mr. Barker himself, and then others by other artists. And then there is the language and how to write it and all that stuff. So it's quite an in-depth campaign world that he created. Since the time this was produced, there have been other versions that have come out since then. This is, of course, the original. There are also supplements and things that came out after that. You can find all that stuff on eBay if you're interested in getting into this campaign setting. I probably will at some time maybe pick up some of the supplements and all that. So there's other information out there. There's also a website about the world of Tecumel and all that, and I'll put a link below. I think it's just tecumel.com, I believe, but I'll put a link just in case I'm wrong. So, and in it, I'm sorry, I almost forgot the most important part. The maps. Now, I'm not going to open all these up because I really don't want to damage them after what I spent. But these maps are in pristine condition. I don't think they've ever been unfolded. And they're, just from what you can see on them, they're beautiful. And there's 3 of them that you get in the box. This is one half of the world map. And then there's another half of the world map. And then this apparently is like the capital city. That's what this map is. It's like the capital city map. But these are in beautiful condition. So I'm not going to unfold them. And not until I'm ready to actually play the game, then I would be willing to do that. But so the other thing that was in this particular one that I did not see on any of the other ones on eBay, there's an explanation of spells. Let's see if you guys can see this. It's not showing up too good. But I don't know if this is something that the owner had typed. The person that sold it to me didn't type this up, they said. But it's possible whoever they got it from, they created this. Or it's possible that this maybe came in a particular printing of this. I have no idea. Maybe somebody that knows it better than I do can say why this would be in certain boxes but not in other ones. So I'm just happy to have it as an extra piece of lore there. So anyway, that is the Empire of the Petal Throne. And I hope you take the time, if you want to learn more about it, if you're an old, grognard D&D player or whatever, and you were like me and didn't know anything about this, maybe you want to look into it a little bit more. I'm very thankful that someone told me about it so I could get into it, particularly because, I'm a collector, but I'm also currently reading this, Playing at the World. And that's how thick this thing is. This is basically the history of gaming. And I mean all of it. All the way back to the origins of wargaming when it was used by armies, way back for strategy purposes. And it turned, and then became, that turned into chess, which turned into, and then you had wargaming that came after that, and then you had role-playing games that came after that. It's all in this book, and I'm trying to read this, cover to cover, which is a daunting task. There's a lot of material in here. But being an aficionado, I'm wanting to know that much about gaming and the history of gaming. I felt that it was important that a game like this, that is referenced in here, that I at least get a copy of it. And to call myself a vintage gamer, I better have, some of the standards. And this is apparently one of them that you got to have. So, anyway, I think that pretty much wraps it up, guys, for this video. It went a little longer than I expected, but I wanted to cover that in depth. And again, thank you, Tim, for turning me on to it. We'll catch you guys on the flip side.